Hi everyone, this is meteorologist Gary Woodall, and welcome to this episode of the Mid-South Weather Musings. As you can see from the show lineup today, we've got quite a bit to cover. We do have severe thunderstorms in the forecast for the Mid-South, so we'll take a look at that outlook and break it down in some detail. Then we'll talk a little bit about science and some of the terms that we use when we're talking about thunderstorms. And then finally, since we do have severe weather in the forecast, we'll review some safety tips that you can use and share with your friends and family and neighbors to keep yourself safe when severe weather threatens. So let's get right into it. The Storm Prediction Center's outlook for tomorrow has a slight risk, 2 out of 5 on their outlook scale over northwest Mississippi, the Memphis metro area, and eastern portions of Arkansas, with a marginal risk, a 1 out of 5 on the scale, from northeast Arkansas down into northeast Mississippi. Now, taking a closer look at the outlooks, the elements themselves, the tornado outlook for tomorrow, most of the attention is going to be well to our west and southwest over North Texas and southeast Oklahoma. A low tornado threat, but only a low threat for us here in the Mid-South region. The hail outlook, again, the greatest threat over North Texas, southeast Oklahoma. A hail threat, though, again, mainly where we saw that slight risk area. And likewise with the damaging wind threat, the greatest for our area where we have the slight risk. The greatest wind threat overall, though, again, well off to our southwest. Now, it looks like this will be primarily a nighttime event, Wednesday night into the overnight hours, maybe into the early morning on Thursday. Here's one of the radar model forecasts that we get, forecast radar for 6 p.m. Wednesday, and it's a little busy, so let me orient you here. This is Tennessee right here, so West Tennessee in here, Memphis right about there, Mississippi here, and northern Mississippi here, eastern Arkansas and the Missouri Boot Heel over here. So by 6 p.m., most of the strongest storms are forecast by this guidance anyway, to be off to the west over Arkansas and Louisiana. By 9 p.m., the storms begin advancing a little further into the Mid-South, and that continues through the midnight hour and into the very early hours on Thursday. By 3 a.m. on Thursday, it looks like the strongest storms pushing to the south and east of the Mid-South area. Still some lingering showers and thunderstorms, though, over the area. So again, Wednesday night looks like our primary threat. And again, hail, I think, will be the primary threat. Damaging winds, a secondary threat. Heavy rainfall as well. We can never overlook the heavy rainfall threat, especially as wet as it's been so far this year. Tornadoes, again, should be pretty low threat for those. Now, one term, or a couple of terms that you often will hear when we talk about thunderstorms, in particular forecasting thunderstorms, the terms surface-based storms and elevated storms. And just what do we mean by that? At first glance, it seems kind of silly because aren't all thunderstorms elevated? Aren't all thunderstorms up in the sky? Well, yes, that's true, but that's not exactly what we mean when we're talking about surface-based and elevated storms. So here we have our environment, and there's our warm, moist air down near the ground and relatively cold air up above, just like we need for all thunderstorms. With surface-based thunderstorms, the fuel layer, the inflow layer for those storms, is right down at the surface, right down near the ground. And that inflow, that fuel goes on to get the thunderstorm going. So with these surface-based thunderstorms, the acceleration of the updraft, that upward moving air current, can begin just off of the ground. And surface-based thunderstorms are capable of all types of severe weather. Tornadoes, damaging winds, large hail can all occur when we have these surface-based thunderstorms. Now, these so-called elevated thunderstorms, again, we have the warm, moist air down close to the ground, again, relatively cold air up above it. But we'll have a thin layer of cold, stable air down close to the ground, right at the ground, and the warm air will actually be riding up and over that shallow cold layer that's down near the ground. This is what we might see if a cold front moves through the area, a shallow cold front that moves through, again, a fairly thin layer of cold air with the warm, moist air up above it. So in this case, the inflow layer for the thunderstorms is elevated up above the ground. It's this warm, moist air that maybe 3,000 feet up above the ground. Now it can go on and form thunderstorms just like we show here. With elevated thunderstorms, though, they are favorable for hail production, less favorable for thunderstorm winds. It can be difficult to get those strong thunderstorm winds down to the ground through this cool, stable layer that's down close to the ground. And it's very difficult for tornadoes to form in this situation. This cool, stable layer that's down at the ground prevents a lot of the mechanisms that need to take place for a tornado to form. And we'll talk about tornado formation, by the way, in a future episode of the Musings. So since we are looking at the potential for elevated hailstorms Wednesday night, this is a good time to talk about some hail safety and how you can keep yourself safe in a hailstorm. Good rules to share with your friends and your family as well. Hail is actually the most destructive weather element that we find with thunderstorms. Each year, hailstorms cause about $1 billion worth of damage, mainly to crops and livestock, roofs, cars, aircraft, anything which is outdoors is a target for a hailstorm. And it's not uncommon for our strongest storms in the Mid-South to make hail that's larger than golf ball size. In fact, these top two pictures were taken in West Tennessee about 3 years or so ago. Now, when the hail gets this large and this heavy, it's going to fall at a speed of about 90 to 100 miles an hour, so it can cause injury. It can be fatal if it strikes somebody falling at that speed. So if a hailstorm approaches, how can you keep safe? Well, move inside a building. That's the best advice. Stay away from windows, and don't forget about the window that you might have in the roof of your house. The skylights need to stay away from all of these glassy areas. Close your blinds or drapes to keep broken glass from flying. If your house happens to get hit and a window gets broken by a large hailstone, closing the blinds and the drapes will keep that glass from flying around. Now, if you're driving and get caught in a hailstorm, pull over, find a safe place to take shelter. Hopefully you've gotten warning about that storm beforehand so you can get to shelter before the hailstorm actually reaches your location. A gas station canopy, an awning, an overhang, a bank teller drive-through window, a drive-through car wash, any of those can be good places to take shelter. Now, if there is no shelter and you're out in the open and cannot get to a sturdy building, then turn your back to the car windows, cover yourself up with jackets. If you have a blanket in the vehicle or a towel, cover yourself up to protect yourself from any glass shards if the windows get broken. And hail that's larger than golf ball size can be, again, big enough and heavy enough to break car windows. So that's going to wrap it up for this edition of Mid-South Weather Musings. Again, keep an eye on the forecast for tomorrow here in the Mid-South, since we do have the potential for severe storms, primarily hail-producing storms during the Wednesday night and into early Thursday time frame. If you like what you've seen this evening, give us a like and be sure to subscribe so that you can be notified with updates or future episodes of the Musings. And let your friends know about it as well. And if you have any topics that you'd like us to cover in a future episode, be sure and comment down below. Let us know what you'd like to see. So thanks again for watching us this evening, and everybody keep safe.